Good morning. Welcome. Today is Thursday, January 15th. Gosh, Apple, Mac OS changed their UI and so many things have transparency. I can't see anything, so I'm always squinting. Anyways, welcome. I can barely see the date, Thursday, January 15th. How's it going? My name is Angela. I am a software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. Front-end developer. On this channel, we just practice a little vanilla because we enjoy it. It's fun. How's it going? Today is Thursday. Yes, I've said the date like 3 times now. This is our second week. Well, last week we did a 5-day sprint. This week represents kind of my new schedule for 2026, which is Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. We made it. We made it a whole week on the new schedule. I'm very happy about that. And yeah, so here we are. As always, if you would like to have your messages read out loud to the class, go ahead and put them in the chat. Let's see who's here. Rahul is here. He's a mod. Hello all, welcome. Go Elmo, formerly Go Elmo Go, currently Malik Robinson, also a mod in the chat. Targio Show. Hello, I hope you are all doing well. Thank you. I hope you are doing well as well. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I'm looking for, I have to tell you, this project that we're working on, it's an old design that I did back in 2014 that's when I had my first job as a developer. I was living in San Diego, California, and I was definitely trying to find my design aesthetic. And I do remember very clearly working on this. I'm pulling up the mock-up because it's pretty darn close. I do remember very clearly working on this in the evening after my day job at my first development job. And I think this is pretty gosh darn close. I have a couple of ideas that I would like to think about. First of all, I put this border around the navigation. I didn't look into this. I said I was going to. I set the color of the border with opacity to match the background color opacity, and they clearly don't match, and I don't know why. Because if it was full strength, 100 opacity 1.0, 100%, they would match. We know that. They don't. But also, I just don't like that white border, and I did the border for accessibility, but I just don't like how it looks. So I'm going to remove it, and I'm just going to think about it. We also changed, there's a huge difference in the spacing between the footer and the grid, and I made these the same. So even when we're on mobile, the gap in between each of these grid items all lines up now, and I'm very happy with that. We also have our mobile navigation implemented. I have a rem of padding on the left and right, but none on the top and bottom. And you can see here that there's a lot more space on the side than there is on the top. So we'll go ahead and add some padding to the top as well. That'll just even that out a little bit. Otherwise, this is like minor QA stuff. I am thinking about ways, these two lists, coffees and snacks, I am thinking about a way that we could make that look a little more visually, aesthetically pleasing. But I haven't quite worked it out yet in my head what I want to do. I shouldn't be it's not something I should be sitting and thinking about. It's something that I should be doing in Affinity Photo. Yeah, but I'm not going to worry about it today. It's just something I'm thinking about. So, kind of basic QA stuff. Today, we're going to work on a contact form. So on Tuesday, we created all of the pages. So we have a home, we have about, we have menu, we have contact. All I did was copy the home page. We haven't actually changed any content on any of these pages. We updated the navigation and we made sure that we had this "You Are Here" class. So that's where we're at. We're going to work on a contact form today using Formspree. This is a third-party form handling app that I've used many times. I have it on one other project called the Lemon Stack, which is something that I've been filming since September and I'm not finished yet. I need to finish that because it's like half done. I also use this for comments and the contact me form on my own personal website. And it does a nice job handling form submissions. I really do not like dealing with email or email servers. I mean, like, I really, really, really don't like it. One moment. And it's kind of like I have a little bit of post-traumatic stress left over from my WordPress days. If you've ever set up a WordPress website on shared hosting, GoDaddy in particular, you can run into a lot of issues getting email working on a WordPress website. And it's like the basic default email of like somebody registered for a new account, somebody did a password reset, or somebody just need like it's pretty normal for a WordPress website or any website to just need a contact form and to reliably make sure that those submissions get to the site owner, especially if that site is being used for any kind of lead generation. I mean, listen, front-end developers, you are going to spend a tremendous amount of your career making sure that the things you build generate leads, that some form submissions are getting from point A to point B. Websites are marketing tools. They are almost always used for lead generation. So I'm obviously not talking about an e-commerce website. I'm not talking about like some fancy app. I'm talking about bread and butter, meat and potatoes websites as marketing tools, which is what a enormous percentage of websites, that's how they function on the web. And as front-end developers, you are going to spend a lot of time dealing with form submissions. And bless your heart, it's time you will never get back. So when I find solutions like just a nice, simple third-party app that can handle the submissions and I don't have to deal with email and a server, it just makes me happy and I use it. Also, Formspree, they have paid versions. I'm still in the free version because for all three of the forms that I currently have, I just don't get that much traffic. I think you get up to 50. Let's see here, Formspree plans. Yeah, I honestly should just sign up for a personal, which is $10 a month, 200 submissions. Except that why would I sign up for that? I don't get 200 submissions in a year. I don't need to pay for this. So I am happy to pay for things when I need them and when I use them. Yeah, so free forever, limited to 50 submissions per month. I don't even get 50 submissions in a year. And there are some things that aren't available. So this is the contact me form on my personal website. Here are some submissions. They only show submissions for the last, I think, to see older submissions, please increase your archive limit by upgrading on the plans page. So I think you only can see submissions for the last 90 days. Perfectly fine. I honestly don't care. That's fine. They're pretty good at dealing with spam. What I really, really like about Formspree is that there isn't a specific API. So when I first signed up for this, I was looking at their documentation. I was like, where's the API? I don't know what the API names are. And what I figured out is there isn't an API. Just go ahead and give your form labels names, and that is the data that goes through and gets collected. It's honestly, it's beautiful. It's a great solution. So I don't have to deal with matching up my form names to a specific set of API names. That's what I like about it. And forgive me if this is how the majority of third-party apps work. this is just, I'm just telling you what my experience has been dealing with forms. It's been a nightmare. Also, okay, I'm going to digress for a second. I came from a place for the last 7 years where we were a, we were a, hello, Angela. Salesforce. We were a Salesforce organization. We used Salesforce for everything. And and I'm not bringing this up because Salesforce has an API that I had to constantly match up. It was because we had a Salesforce team that were naming fields and never telling me what those names were. So they were building out all of those environments in Salesforce. And I am not criticizing the Salesforce team at the University of St. Thomas. They are amazing. They were my colleagues for years. I love them. These were just some of the things that I had to figure out working at St. Thomas was the communication between this team, because they were building out their environments in Salesforce. They were naming the fields, and then I was constantly guessing at what those field names were. It was a lot of difficult communication sometimes to get on the same page and understand what the names of those fields were. It was a thing. So to have something where I can just create the API names in the form and not have to go to Formspree and say, hey, Formspree, these are the API names. Like, please make sure you match them up. That's really awesome to me that I can just do that in one place on the front end, and whatever comes through as the submission, Formspree just puts it in a nice little table and displays it. So I'm just saying, if you're new to development, you may not realize as a front-end developer that you are going to spend a lot of time dealing with form submissions and lead generation. And these are things that I've run into in my career. So, okay, with that being said, let's say hello to some more people in the chat. So, and Malik says, announced the internship on LinkedIn and got a nice comment from Thaddeus. I don't know who Thaddeus is. Everything is locked in now. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's bold. I don't put anything on LinkedIn for like months. But I'm glad that everything is locked in now. And tell me who Thaddeus is. I don't know who that is. I personally know somebody named Thaddeus, but I don't know if that's the same person that you're talking about. I'm not really sure. So, and Entertainment says, hello, how have you been? I've been doing well. It's been a busy week. I'm taking down the notes. Okay, good. Well, you know, the stream is available on replay, right? The stream's available on replay. So don't let your note-taking distract you from enjoying the show, I guess. Thaddeus Resource Center is the organization. Oh, got it. That's the organization that you're working from. You know what's funny is I know somebody whose name is actually Thaddeus. That's why when you said that, I was like, why would Thad? Do you know Thad? How do you know him? Why would you know him? That's why I said that. So my apologies. So good. Well, I'm glad that everything is locked in now. I'm super excited for you. You're going to get so much experience. Here's the thing about being a developer and getting that first job is you're just going to find yourself in situations where you're like, wow, this is a thing. This is happening. This is a thing that's happening right now that I never dreamed would happen. So that's how I felt about being a developer. So yeah, anyways. Okay, so let's go ahead and build our contact page. We're going to come back to this. We don't need this right now. The one thing I'm going to do to the UI is take that border off because I really don't like it. And I need to sit with it for a minute or two. So, and then, yeah. So also on Tuesday, the deployment wasn't working on GitHub Pages, and that's working now. So everything has been deployed, and we will look at this on mobile. So let's see here. right here. I don't like this. Yeah. I mean, we still have contrast between the background and the text itself, right? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Let's we don't need to worry about that right now. So, and entertainment says have a good time ahead. Well, I will. Thank you. Okay, we don't really need CSS right now. This is our home page. Let's go to our contact page. So the first thing that we need to do on the contact page is, so there's our header. Here's our main. This is the wrap with the 3 articles. We obviously don't need these. So let's take these out. We changed our primary logo to a div. On the home page is an H1, but on the inner pages, that should be a div. And that means that I want to change this. So I still want this look and feel, but instead of these 4 boxes, I want just a header. So I'm going to say, now this is going to be an H1, and I'm going to give this a class, and we'll just say page title. So we'll have to do a little styling to this, but that's fine. So we'll say contact us. And I'm just going to put in a tiny little bit of lorem ipsum. One moment. Okay, we'll put in a tiny little bit of lorem ipsum. I don't know if I will keep that or not, but I'm going to put it in just for the heck of it. And let's see here. Can we not see it? Oh, I think we're going to have to update some of our styles. Oh, that's interesting. So we used the wrap class for our grid. Yeah. Also, so I bet we did hero wrap and then we treated it like a grid. How much you want to bet that's not going to work? Because that's treating now everything inside there like a grid. So let's do this. Let's add another class. Well, let's add another class on the home page. So here's the home page. Let's add another class here that just says grid. And then let's update our styles. So this says grid. And we'll check the home page. I can see the text here. You can't see it. Maybe, can I? No, you're not going to let me. It's right there. And there's the paragraph text. So it is there. And then on the home page, our grid is still intact because we updated that class. So that is a pretty common oversight. Okay, don't need you anymore. Although we might still need you, depending on what other mistakes I made. Okay, and I want this to look a specific way. So yeah, let's do a couple quick styles. Whoops. So here's our hero. There's the articles, events. Here's a media query. Technically, this is still inside the hero. This is the page title. So let's do this right here. So I think we also need I also want what we're doing for the article to also be for this particular wrap, but not all of the wraps. So I think we could probably do hero has, or maybe we want to do hero wrap has page title. And then the page title is up here. And then the page title would be, I'm just going to put in 4 rems for now, just to see if this is working. Yeah, okay, this is working. And we didn't screw up anything on the home page. So here's the wrap. Has comes in very handy. It's like this backwards if statement. That's how it feels to me. So yeah, this comes in very handy. Okay, good. Boy, this is a great example of how I wasn't really thinking about the inner pages. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about how I was going to target the inner pages. The easiest way to target an inner page is to just put classes on, you can put classes on body or main. There's nothing wrong with that. So I probably want to change the, so if hero has a page title, then we would want to change align content. And I think we also need to change, I think we need to take the aspect ratio. Yeah, we just need to take the aspect ratio off and change, well, we just need to take the aspect ratio off because it doesn't matter what the alignment is if there's no aspect ratio. So we'll say hero has page title, and that's how we'll know it's an inner page. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I do want to put this. I do want to put this down here. This feels so fancy. Hero has page title, aspect ratio. What's none? Aspect ratio 0. Auto. Oh, probably we want to do auto. Yeah. I like it. And then let's make sure that this is text align center. we can adjust, we have to adjust our margin. Well, it's rare. Everything just works out right out of the gate. There we go. Perfect. I think that we should make sure that the page title plus paragraph text, so basically the description, has a max width character count. So let's do hero, page title plus paragraph, max width, character 60 ch, and then we'll have to make sure that there's margin, 1 rem auto, and also text align center. We could probably just put the text align center on the wrap. Whoops. There we go. Beautiful. And then we probably want to clamp this font size. How are we clamping the font size for the primary logo? Right here. Let's clamp it. We'll do the same clamp here. What? That works perfectly. That works. How did I get that right the first time? Wow. Terry Murray is here. Hello. Hello, Angela and the rest of the world. How is the weather there? Getting a dumping of snow here in Toronto. The weather is not too shabby, actually. It's pretty cold, but it's dry. So temp in St. Paul. Yeah, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very chilly, but it's dry. So it's not snowing, it's not raining, thank goodness, because if it was, anywhere near 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess is 0 Celsius, it would probably be raining. And we've had rain the last week or so. So things are real icy, but it's dry. Yesterday, sunshine the entire day. And I tell you, when there's sunshine and no wind, I don't care how cold it is. If there's no wind and it's sunny outside, I can completely handle it. It's no big deal. I even went and got a car wash yesterday, which just made me so happy because I feel like my car was covered in 2 months of salt and sand and grime. I couldn't see out of my backup camera, and I was like trying to clean off my backup camera. I couldn't even get it clean enough. So, yeah, I can see out of my backup camera now, and my car is clean, which makes me very happy. So I've been watching, speaking of Canada, I know Canada is an enormous country, but I've been watching this new YouTuber. His name is Steve Wallace, this Canadian camper who does all of this stealth camping. I just love this guy. I've been watching all of his content. He has years and years of content. I'm not a camper. I don't like camping. It's not my thing, but I fully enjoy his content, and he's Canadian. And Minnesotans and Canadians are very similar. I don't know. So I really enjoy this guy, Camping with Steve. I just think he's so fun to watch. I don't know. So you telling me, I know you're Canadian, Terry. So you saying welcome from Toronto makes me think of Steve. So whose content I've been enjoying. So yeah. Ooh, 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's chilly. So it's interesting that it's that cold and snowing, because usually when it's really, really cold out, it sucks all the moisture out of the air. So I feel for you that it is that cold and it is snowing. That is rough. So hopefully you don't have to do a lot of driving in that weather. That's the other thing about living in Minnesota. I have to I have to take my dog outside probably 5 or 6 times a day. She has to be walked. She needs to go out. I don't love it in the winter, but I can deal with it. I've got a warm coat, boots, hat, mittens. I've got the whole get up so I can keep myself warm. It's a pain in the ass, but we can do it. It really it was the absolute worst in the 90s and like early 2000s when I had a traditional 9 to 5 job that I had to drive every single day to work. And in Minnesota, it doesn't matter how bad the weather is. If you have a 9 to 5 job here, you are expected to be at work. This is before work from home was ever a thing. And I can just remember spending hours of my life white knuckling it on icy, snowy freeways, spending hours in traffic trying to get home at the end of the day after a snowstorm. I'm just so glad those days are over. I hope you don't have to deal with that. So, and Malik says, interesting. CSS has a lot of interesting updates. Can't wait for all of them to be fully supported. Yeah, I think these pseudo, these are, I think you would consider these would be considered a pseudo class because it represents a state, not an actual element. I think, let's look. I can't remember. There's pseudo classes and pseudo elements. And I think a good blanket term that people use is pseudo selector, but pseudo selector is not a part of the official CSS spec. Why can't I type? MDN has CSS. Yeah, it's a pseudo class. Represents an element if any of the relative selectors that are passed as an argument match at least one element when anchored against this element. This pseudo class presents a way of selecting a parent element or a previous sibling element with respect to a reference element by taking a relative selector list as an argument. To me, it's almost like an if statement when you can use has. So it's very powerful. Yeah, baseline 2023 newly available, but it's got wide support. Let's see here. Yeah, it has support. So full support right here. We love it. Okay. So this is perfect. This is exactly what I want all of the headers to look like. So when we work on the inner pages, we have CSS now that supports the inner pages with, let's see here, just this right here, just these 4 things. And we didn't have to add classes to the inner page. So we didn't have to add anything to the body that was like inner page or about page, contact page. Using has is really powerful. So, okay. Now, how do we want these inner pages to actually look? So we've got the main, we've got the hero div. Basically, we are going to add sections now to the inner pages, and I'm just going to give this a class of section. And in order to use a section, you have to have some kind of a heading. So we'll say H2 secondary heading, and we'll say, well, the page already says contact us, so our H2 could be fill out the form. I don't know. We'll think of something better to put. And then we could do a form element. I don't have an action yet. We'll get an action when we do our form. We'll give this a class of form. Let's make sure that we would have some description text, letting people know like, hey, I don't know, like, I think it's a good idea to have some descriptive text, especially if, why, when I open a new tab, does it not start typing? Okay, losing my mind. So here's my contact form. It's a good idea to make sure that you have some text on a page, even if you're just, even if it's just a contact form. Part of that is for SEO, and think about the things that get how a contact form would show up in SEO. So I'm going to type in site:@angelajholden.com. This is going to tell me all of the pages on my website that are indexed in Google. And let's see, here is my contact here. Here is my contact form. And is it using my description text? I'm a software engineer, front-end developer living in St. Paul, Minnesota. Oh, interesting. It's using the text from my footer, even though I wrote a custom meta description and I have content on the page. When it indexed the page, it used content from my footer. That's interesting. It's still a good idea, even if you have a custom meta description, make sure that you have some text on the page. That's just an SEO tip from me to you. Let's make sure that we also have, hopefully that all just made sense. You know what? Let's get back to the right screen. Here we go. Sorry about that. So let me show this to you again, because I don't think it was big enough. So this is how my Contact Me page looks when it's indexed in Google. There's the title of the page, there's the meta description, but on my actual website, I have actual text that I have before the form. I have text in my footer, and this is text that appears on every page because it's the footer. And then I also have a title and a meta description with completely unique text. And for whatever reason, Google took the text from my footer as the meta description when it is showing the snippet in search results. I still stand by my statement, though, that if you have a page with a contact form, make sure that you still have some content on the page someplace. So that was my point in showing you that. And I also think it's just a good idea to have a title and a description, or just some descriptive text for your page, in my opinion. So, okay, so this is taking shape. There's obviously lots more styling to do. So, okay, so what form elements do we want to be on the page? First of all, I want to show you another form that I recently worked on. This is a project that I've been working on called the Lemon Stack that I started filming last fall, and I'm not done with it yet. But this is the contact form that I built for this home page, and I also have this on a dedicated contact page. Here's the other great thing about using Formspree, is that you can put the same form on multiple pages. So if we decided for some reason that we wanted the contact form to be on the home page and on the contact page, you can absolutely do that, and you don't need multiple contact forms in Formspree. You can use the same endpoint. What makes that, hang on here we go. What will make it very helpful, though, is you will want to capture the page path and the page URL that the submission came from. The reason for this is, let me see here if I can find it. So here's a really good example. I use a Formspree form for my articles as like a comment form. So it's not dynamic in that somebody sends a comment and it automatically updates. I would have to go in and put it in, but I don't get that many comments because I am honestly a terrible blogger and I don't keep up on my blogging. But if I want to know what comment is associated with what article, I need to capture the page URL. I need to capture where they actually came from and where they put that comment. So if you're going to have the same form on multiple pages of your website, it's a good idea to put in a hidden field, and then with a little bit of JavaScript, you can dynamically capture the URL of the page that the form was submitted from. So even if it's the same form, even if it's just a contact form, you may think to yourself, why does it matter if it comes from the home page or the contact page? I don't know. I just think it's a good idea to collect as much data as you can. And since all you need is a name and Formspree will automatically capture that information for you, you might as well. So the first two things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a hidden field and we're going to get the page path and the page URL. The next thing that I want to do is I want to make a little bit of a honeypot here. So this is going to be hidden to a cited user, but I also want to make sure that if you're using a screen reader, you don't mistakenly fill it out. So there's going to be a label here that says leave this field empty, and that's for anybody using a screen reader and filling out a form. I'm telling you, hey, leave this field empty. And this is specifically for bots, that we have an input with a type of text. The name is honeypot, and then I have autocomplete off. So this is my version of a honeypot to discourage bots. So I'm going to have that next. And then the rest is just the form itself. So for this particular form, I have first name, last name, email, phone number, and message. I have a message here related to which things are required, and then we have a submit button. Submit buttons inside of a form element will always submit the form. It's a good idea for accessibility and just semantics to include type equals submit. But even if you just had a button inside the form, that button would submit the form. And then of course, if you have a button inside the form that you don't want to submit the form, you need it to perform some other action, you would just say type equals button, and then it won't submit the form. So that is just a fun little HTML trick. I don't know if it's a trick. It's like functionality. Okay, so what information do we want to capture for our bakery coffee shop? Let's just do name. So we'll do label for name. And we'll give this a class of SR only. That's our screen reader text label. So we'll say screen reader only, name, and then we'll do an input type text. The name will be name. And I think we need to make it required. And I don't think we actually need to put in a value. We can just say required. What else do we want to say? Anything else? Placeholder required. Oh yeah, it's a good idea to do a minimum length and a maximum length. So we'll say placeholder name, min length 2 characters, max length 50 characters. Hang on one second. Heidi hears something outside, so she's barking. So, and Terry says he is working today, so he had to go out. I'm so sorry. Are you going to use form group classes? I don't think so. I don't usually. So, form group classes. HTML form group class. Oh, is this a Bootstrap thing? Form group class is the easiest way to add structure to forms. It provides a flexible class that encourages proper grouping of labels and controls. No, I don't usually. I don't usually do that. I think my forms are semantic and accessible. And this is a very simple, straightforward form, in my opinion. Let's change this. SR only. So no, I'm not going to do any special grouping. Oh, so it's not specifically a Bootstrap thing. Do you just mean I guess I don't know what you mean by form group classes. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I generally don't put a lot of classes on my inputs because my form styles tend to be pretty consistent throughout the site. So for example, if I was going to make form styles if I was going to style inputs and buttons specific to forms, I would do that on the input itself, or maybe I would do input type text, input, like the different types. But no, I generally don't use a lot of classes on my forms. So unless I'm on a project that has multiple different types of forms, like maybe there are search forms and contact forms and comment forms, things like that. So helps with responsiveness. Well, here, let's keep going. I'll show you how I style the forms. I'll show you how I style the forms to make sure that they're responsive. My forms are not complex. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about grouping the forms so you could have things side by side. Got it. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's go back and look at the lemon tree or the lemon stack. I could do that, but I don't think this form is going to be that complex. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Let's hang on here. Let's see here. No, that's not what I wanted. Request. I couldn't remember the RFI URL when I worked at St. Thomas. I don't know. Here we go. Request information. There, are you talking about this where you group things so they're aligned? I think that's what you're talking about. Probably not. I think it's better to just have them all be on their own line. I think it's a better UI, but I could see why doing that would, if you had a really long form, why grouping them and having them aligned would be okay. I could see why doing that would do that. So we'll do label SR only, and this is a label for, say, email. Input type email. The name will be email. The placeholder will be email. We'll make sure that this is required. I think it's okay to require an email. Then do we want to do... So I'm not doing a minimum length or a maximum length for email. I'm not doing it for, well, we'll do a minimum length for the message. We'll do label SR only. We'll say phone number. Input type tell for a phone number. Name, we'll just say phone. Placeholder, phone. And I think this could be optional. And we'll put optional in quotes, so people who are either using a screen reader or even the visual people will know this is optional. Okay, so we'll do label, screen reader only. This can be, what other information do we want to gather? Why, when I click, is it not getting focus? There we go. Do they have a contact us? Let's see here. Okay, so they're doing first name, last name, email, phone, subject, message. Everything is required. Interesting. So maybe we could do something like for, do we want to do like a bunch of, want to do some radio buttons or something? Let's just build out our basic form. We can add more things later if we want to. Let's just get the basic form built and working. We'll just put in a message for message. And then this is a text area. Oh, and we have to add our IDs. For name. So the for matches the ID. For email. For phone. We'll make this required, and we'll give this a minimum length of 10 characters. And then it looks like I put an asterisk by the required fields. We can do that on the placeholder. And then this is optional. I'll do placeholder. And inputs by default, I'm pretty sure are display inline block. Let's see here. input user agent style sheet, display inline block. So we're going to make those display block when we style them. Okay, we need a submit button. So we'll say button type equals submit. We'll give this a class of button. We haven't really, well, we styled buttons for the navigation. So we maybe want to borrow some of those styles, and then we'll say submit. What else do we want to do here? And then let's do a message. You can write a lot of JavaScript to deal with labels. So the forms at St. Thomas right now are Lightning Web Components from Salesforce, but before we switched to Lightning Web Components, we did all of the styling, all of the form development ourselves. And one of the developers before I got there had written a bunch of JavaScript to treat the labels as the input text, and then when the input got focused, it transitioned the label to the upper right hand corner. It did look really nice and it did function really well. In my opinion, I don't like those things. I think it's overkill. I prefer a simpler UI. That is my preference. Placeholder text is not accessible, so you can't rely on that for accessibility. It's okay to just have a label that is hidden with screen reader text. That is perfectly fine. In my opinion, I think it is better to avoid taking labels, using JavaScript to place them as if they were placeholder text, and then transitioning on focus. That is just my personal opinion and my personal aesthetic. I just don't do that. But you will see lots of solutions out there to handle that way. This is just how I do it. I look for the simplest way to do it. Now, I will say this. I wish that I could control the placeholder text, and I can't. Like, I would love it if I could put this asterisk inside of a span and style that, because you can style placeholder text. You can change the color, you can style it, but you can't style the elements separately inside placeholder text. So if you really want placeholder text with like a red asterisk to denote that this is a required field, you're not going to be able to do that with placeholder text alone. You could target placeholder text based on whether or not the field was required and make all of the text red if that was an important thing to you. It's not to me. So instead, I'm going to use the small element, which is a semantic accessible way to put in a message regarding the form. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say fields in green are required. A new tab will open when submitted. That's the other thing. Unless you are paying for the premium version of Formspree, you don't get the ability to have a custom redirect on when the form is being submitted. So what I do, because I'm cheap and I'm just not paying for it yet, is I'm going to have the form submission be open in a new tab. So at least it doesn't completely take people away from the site. It opens a new tab and then people can just go back to the original tab. Now, the page itself is still going to have everything filled in, but we have some JavaScript to at least disable the submit button so people can't submit the same thing multiple times, if that makes sense. You'll see the JavaScript for this form is very, very easy. So you will see when we get there. So target blank. So when we do the submission, and I think it's a post. Yep, the method is post. Yeah, and then we'll get that endpoint once we actually create the field. So for here, I put in a message basically saying fields in green are required. A new tab will open when submitted. And the way I made so what I did then was I styled the placeholder text based on the fact that there was a required attribute, and we can just do all of that with CSS. We don't even need custom class names for these inputs. You can just use the attributes themselves to target the text. So you can do all of it with CSS. So, and let's see here. No one is here. Hello. Hello, no one. Also a mod in the chat. And GW is saying use regex if call it right for form validation. Yeah, for form validation, I just I'll tell you what I do. My approach is a little simpler. HTML will help with form validation. Like there is built-in form validation to, and I know what you're talking about. Like there's regex that you can use to make sure people are putting in complete email addresses. There's form validation or regex that you can use to make sure that people are putting in the correct phone numbers. I'm not going to do any of that for this form. I'm not going to do any of that. So I know that those things exist and that JavaScript exists and it's been in use for years, and I just don't do any of that. I don't worry about any of that. If you were working at a big organization where you were collecting leads and you were relying on lead generation, and especially in something like Salesforce, yeah, you would probably want to implement things like that. I'm not going to do that for this. I'm taking a much simpler approach. This is a smaller website, and I don't think it's necessary for this size project. So that's why I'm not doing that. So there's that. Okay. I'm more focused on the UI than the functionality. So why am I explaining myself? I don't have to explain myself other than telling you the decision that I've made for how I'm doing the project. So, okay. HTML is bypassable. That's completely fair. However, Formspree also handles some of that stuff. Formspree will deal with some of that. So, okay. Let's start styling. Start styling. Where are we here? Listen, I'll say this about forms and form submissions. It's complex. It is complex. There's lots of ways to handle this. We can make it as complex as we want, or we can make it as simple as we want. This is my approach. If you are more experienced, especially in JavaScript, and you understand the solutions to implement that kind of authentication, good for you, more power to you. That is not my strength. My strength is building UIs, and I have to I just I don't know everything, and I don't know how to do everything. So I look for simpler solutions. This is a solution that I found, and it works really well for me. I just haven't had a problem with this. So this is the approach that I'm taking. So. Oh, and I know I sound really defensive right now. I'm just trying to explain my decision-making process. That's all. One more thing. Today, AI was suggesting one of your videos. Really? Wow. All right. I'll take it. I mean, I use AI a lot. So I will say this. One moment. I use AI a lot, so it's nice to know that they're suggesting me for something. I'll take it. Hopefully it makes sense, my decision-making process and why I choose what I choose. So, you know, I'm just doing the best I can, right? Okay, let's do some styling. So let's make sure, so here's the other thing that we're doing is we're creating our first inner page. So we need to make sure that the pages in general look okay. And this contact page is going to give us some basic structural layout features for the other remaining inner pages. So yes, ChatGPT. Oh, nice. I'll take it. I'll take it. ChatGPT recommended me. Okay, here we go. So we have, how wide is this wrap? Okay. So let's make sure that our sections, first of all, I think we need to make sure that our sections have some global styles. So let's do this. Let's make sure that the sections have 3 rems of padding on top and 1 rem on the left and right. Let's make sure that I think we should do some styles for, well, we did a style already for the page title. So let's make sure that we have some styles for secondary heading and tertiary heading, although we do technically have styles for those. They might be too specific. So I want to use these dark maroon secondary heading styles, but for the articles they need to be text align center. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to take these out and we'll just leave that text align center. And we'll do this. There we go. Let's make sure that if there's a secondary heading plus a paragraph tag, we have a maximum width. Secondary heading plus P, we have a maximum width of, I'm going to say 60 characters. Oh, I think it could be a little longer than that. We'll say 80. That works. I'm not going to center align it because I just hate center aligning every single thing. And I think we need to change the wrap for the inner pages. I think it is way too wide. So it's 100 rems for the home page. I think it should be 75 for the inner pages. So I think if we have a wrap, how do we want to do this? Because I don't want to change the wrap for the header. I don't want to change the wrap for the footer. So maybe if it's section plus wrap, the wrap can be 75 rems. Let's do that. We'll say max width, 75 rems. And I'm going to put a comment here, inner pages section wraps. And we do need to make sure section wrap, section plus wrap. Oh, it's a child, that's why. There we go. Much better. We might want, though, if it's a form that's awfully wide, does it matter? It might not matter. Okay, let's get back down to our form. There we go. Well, let's just start doing our inputs. We'll say input type equals text. And we'll say input type equals telephone. And we'll say input type equals email. And what else? Text, email, telephone. And we'll say with 100%. Let's make sure these are display blocks so they're on their own line. And then we'll give these some margin on the, we'll give these a rem of margin on the bottom. That might be too much. We'll see how it goes. We'll give these some padding on the inside, 0.5 rems. Let's see here. Oh, and we'll take this off. There we go. Yeah, we need a lot more padding. And then let's give this a nice big border. We'll say 2 pixels, solid. What color do we want it to be? Go with dark maroon. I think they need to be way bigger. Can we give them line height? Oh, an element doesn't have an autocomplete attribute. Okay, yeah. Chrome's been doing this a lot. Autocomplete. Autocomplete telephone. I mean, would there be an autocomplete for text area? I don't think so. Given name. So we'll change that to given name. Oh, it probably just wants on or off. I'm going to say autocomplete off. We'll say given name. And then they can change it if they want to, right? Okay. If we change these to display block, can I give these line height? Yes. Let's make sure our text area. Do we just want to add our text area here? And then let's give our text area some rows. Can we just say rows 10? There we go. Here's our submit button. Look at that, it's already shaping up. We're going to do something. We're going to try to do something to the background to make it not so boring. So, and then we'll do button type equals submit. Well, we gave this a class of button, and we did sort of do button styles for our navigation links, so we could borrow those. I'm going to take out this. So these are the styles that we did for our navigation elements, which I do like. The styles, the colors aren't all going to work because the navigation elements are against a dark background, but we could still borrow these so we have consistent styles. So let's borrow these and just make some button styles, some global button styles. So here's our button where we sort of change the button element. I don't think we should change this to display block because that's gonna, they're already just by default display inline block, and I think that's fine. The background color should be, let's just make them a solid maroon. Dark maroon. Let's not transition the color. Let's just transition to the plain maroon. We can take this out as well. We'll see how this looks. We obviously need to change this color. Light gray. And I think that these buttons, yeah, these are a lot taller than these. How come? This is the same styles. These probably have line, do these have line height? Oh, is it because, yeah, these have line height, that's why. I think these anchor elements are getting line height by default. There. And of course this display inline block, but if I make it display block, oh, I guess that's okay. Just don't make it width 100%. Just don't do that, right? Okay, we'll make this display block. And then that way, we don't really need to style. We don't really need to style the submit button because we just added that class. Okay, and then let's make sure the inputs have a background color of white because I'm going to change the background here. So we'll say background color white. We'll say background color white. Here's our small text, which normalize gives a font size of 80%, which technically is okay. Let's style the placeholder text for the required fields. And we'll use this teal color for the required fields, and then we'll make sure that that's included in the message that those are required. So I think we can just say input required placeholder. And I think we can say text area required placeholder. And then we can just change the color to teal. Yeah, and it is teal. Let's make it bold. Font weight. That's a little too bold. Let's take that down a bit. There we go. And then fields in green are required. So our small with a span of green, we'll say fields in we could say fields in bold. Let's do that. Fields in bold are required. And then let's just go ahead and do a bold class as one of our global styles. And we'll just say font weight 700, and we'll make the color teal. And then let's add, after our small, some margin. So we'll say margin 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Is this an inline element? Why can't I give this margin? It's an inline element. So we'll give this display block. There we go. And then presumably you would have some text here that just says, leave us a message. We'll respond as soon as possible. And then we can put any color we want behind this because our UI elements will have an accessible border and a white background. So what do we want to do? What kind of color do we want to put behind here? We could put another image behind it. We could put what do we want to do? I don't want to do another image because we already have like we have a lot going on in the image already. So I don't think we need to do another image. Let's just do like a gray background on that section. So this would be, so let's say section, if the section has a form, whoops. Section has form, we're going to make that section background color gray. We could do the light gray, we could do the dark gray. Okay, I like it because this gray color is, to me, actually a little bit creamy, right? So I personally like this because this is a very warm gray. It's almost like a beige or a cream. Yeah, I love it. I don't know if I understand this question. How would the same background as the contact container look? I'm not sure. I don't know which background. I kind of like this. I kind of like this because it's very warm. Technically, this light gray and this white don't have enough contrast. The reason that this would be accessible is because we have this border. So this border is what will give us an accessible background. I am going to put a little more space in between. Let's give these a little more space. Yeah, maybe that's a little too much. There we go. I like it. This is it's very warm to me. Oh, and Malik says, you pretty much already did it just without the opacity change. That is what I was suggesting. Got it. Got it. I like it. I like it. And since we're putting every element or every input on its own, oh, that's not what I wanted. Since we're putting every element on its own line, basically all of the elements are display block, there really isn't anything that we need to change or do differently. We could tighten up this form on mobile. In fact, that's not a bad idea. I think our smallest breakpoint is 600 pixels. So how about at 600 pixels, we just tighten some of this up a little bit. We tighten up the padding, we tighten up the space in between, and that's it. That's all we need to do to this form. Well, we obviously need to power the form, right? We need to fill the form out. We're going to do that next. But my approach to forms is, and this is just my own experience dealing with form submissions, keep it simple. Just keep it simple, keep it usable. Here's the name of the game when it comes to forms. Usability is the name of the game. Make it so easy for users to fill out a form, especially on a website that is where the whole business, the whole point of the website is capturing leads, lead generation. It's so important. Just make them as usable and simple as possible. I just cannot stress this enough, because there is no worse feeling than finding out that a form you built, and by you, I mean me, there is no worse feeling than finding out that a form I built has been live for weeks or months and it wasn't usable and it wasn't capturing leads. Because as a front-end developer, I'm not on the end where the data is going. There's almost always another team of people who is managing that CRM, they're managing the data, and they're responsible for like that drip campaign and the lead generation follow-up, right? My goal is to build the form and test the form and make sure submissions get from point A to point B. And so part of this is that it is obviously the responsibility of the person managing the data to make sure that leads are coming through. But I'm just saying there's no worse feeling than finding out that something I did to a form, a piece of JavaScript, some kind part of the interface, something like that, caused that form to not work on a specific device or in a specific situation. And then I find out that leads are not getting captured. It is an awful feeling. And I just can't stress this enough. Keep it simple, because you can't test every device. You cannot test every operating system. You can't test every situation. Keep it simple. I'm begging you. I've been down this road. It is so incredibly stressful to find out that a piece of JavaScript you implemented works in every situation except for Android mobile. That's a great example. It affects probably 2 or 3% of your users, but it still affects users. And if somebody on that device is trying to fill out your form, they want to be a customer, you are now keeping that person from, you're keeping the organization from capturing that lead. So, keep it simple. I'm always going to default to that. And to go back to the comment about using regex and things like that for form validation, yeah, those things are smart. They've been around for a long time. That's not a wheel that I need to reinvent. But sometimes those things can backfire. Sometimes you can't test every edge case when you are implementing a lot of form validation tools. I'm just going to put that out there. So I'm going to do some mobile styles right now. So it's not going to be fixed, but I'm going to implement some mobile styles right now, and we're going to tighten this up for mobile. And then we'll go ahead and deploy this, and we'll actually look at this on a mobile device. So I'll look at this on my iPhone. So let's do a quick media query now. The form, I have a lot of strong feelings about forms. Clearly, this is a road that I have been down in my career. And it's very stressful when the organization that you're working for, when this is an important part of the business and some part of the UI doesn't work, or the form's not usable, or leads aren't being captured because of 1 or 2 lines of JavaScript. I'm telling you, it's a really awful feeling. So, okay, what do we want to do here? So I think we can tighten up this padding. We'll say we'll try 0.5 rems. We'll do the same with the margin. We'll say 1 rem on the top and bottom. And then let's tighten up our line height. We'll go from 2 to 1.5. And that already makes a huge difference. Let's see here. So we go from that to that. So that already really helps on mobile. And then let's go back up to our section here and tighten up this. So let's do a media query. Let's see here. Inner pages section wraps. Let's put this right here in this spot, and then let's do a media query for this. And I'm going to use that smallest breakpoint, 600 pixels, and let's just tighten up the padding for the sections. And let's just do 1 rem all the way around. There we go. Look at how much tighter. So on a mobile device, that's going to make a huge difference. And then let's do the same thing up here in our wrap. Let's change this from hero wrap has a page title for mobile from 2 rems to 1. So this right here, we're just going to adjust this for mobile. And we have a media query here for 600. We don't need this. I'll change that to 1. And look at that. That just makes a huge difference for a mobile device. So we go from this down to this. Much better. I like it. I like it. So let's go ahead and actually create our form now so we can get our endpoint in there. So in Formspree, I'm just going to say add new form, and I'm going to name this, we'll just call this coffee, but no tea. And we'll create our form. And they give us code examples here. All I want is this endpoint right here. That's all I care about because I do it myself. I do it myself. So here's our endpoint, our action URL. I can't test this locally. I can already tell you that this is gonna fail locally. So let's go ahead and get this deployed up to GitHub. We're gonna test. I'm gonna show you how I test forms on desktop and on mobile. Yeah. So let's go ahead and form and styles, git push origin main. There we go. Let's make sure that this all gets deployed. Okay, hopefully this deployment works. Let's see here. Swarav is here. I'm learning HTML and CSS. I know a little about media queries for responsiveness. Yeah, keep practicing. It'll all come together. Just keep practicing. All you need is a couple well-placed media queries to make things responsive. It does not have to be more complicated than that. And Caffeine Cowboy says, I haven't noticed you use things like clamp for fonts or divs. I could have missed them since I've not been here in a few days. Do you feel the need to use them rather than two distinct font sizes? That's a great question. And for mobile versus desktop versus tablet. So I do use clamp. Let's look here. I do have clamp here. I tend to use clamp for font sizes more than anything else. So we're clamping the font size for the primary logo. We're clamping the font size for the page titles. We're clamping. I tend to use clamp mostly on font sizes. And you're right. I do tend to be a little more precise using media queries. You are absolutely right that there are opportunities here for me to use clamp more often. And I'll just be honest with you, the reason I do it this way is because I spent a decade doing it this way. I know that makes me sound like I am incapable of change, or I'm not capable of... It makes me feel, when I admit it out loud, that I might not be capable of learning new things. I absolutely am. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just falling into habits of ways that I've been doing it for 10 years. That is just my very poor excuse for why I don't use clamp more often. Here's one of the great things about clamp is that you don't have to be precise with media queries, which is amazing, but you do lose precision. Literally, you lose precision, and I like the precision, and the precision isn't... I just like it. I like the precision of looking at a window for myself and deciding, oh, this is the breakpoint that I want. I want it to look this way at this breakpoint. And clamp removes some of that, which makes me a little uncomfortable, which I don't love. But also, maybe I need to get over it and just get with the program. There's that too, right? Yeah. Is this deploying? Okay, we're deployed. Give me one moment. I'm going to hook up my phone and we will... we're going to test this on mobile, and I'm going to show you how I test forms. So, one moment. Okay. Let's see here. Well, let's do the desktop first. Let's test on desktop first. So we'll go to our contact page. Oh, she's beautiful. I like her a lot. Yes. Okay. So when I do form testing, because you will be testing in production, okay, so technically this was a staging site, right? But once you deploy to production, you should also be doing an additional set of testing in production, but you want to keep your data clean. So make sure that it's really obvious what is production data and what is test data. So we'll say Angela test, Holden test. So this would be very obvious to the CRM people that this is not production data, and they do not need to put the tester into their drip campaign, right? And I'll say info at J Holden plus, wait a second, isn't it info plus test? Isn't that how you categorize? So we'll say info plus test, and then this is to keep your own email clean in case you do get put into the drip campaign. I'm going to leave my phone number out. And then for a message, I highly recommend that you make extremely detailed messages for form submissions, because if your forms aren't going through, and I promise you, you will have forms that don't go through, and then suddenly they do go through, you need to know which one worked and which one didn't. So make your form submission messages as detailed as possible. So I'm going to say form submission on January, what's today, 15th, 2026 at time, and for me it's 12:28. And then if you're testing forms for clients, make sure that the client has the ability to hit reply and reply to the person who sent the message. So please click reply and confirm you received this message. So what I'm testing is that the form went from point A to point B, but also that the client got the form. The client can hit reply and reply to the email. This is very important. Do not skip this step, because if you are working with a small business or a sole proprietor who relies on lead generation, this part has to work. Okay, so we'll go ahead and submit. We get this page right here, which is a new page. Oh, and we forgot to write our JavaScript, so we're going to do that next. But the form is technically working. So we just need to write a little bit of JavaScript now to make sure that we're capturing our hidden fields, and also that we disable the button on submission. But you actually don't need the JavaScript. All of this works without it. We're just going to do a little bit of JavaScript to enhance this and just do a couple extra things. And we should be able to go to Formspree now and see if we have any submissions. Oh, and it went into spam. Wait, it says spam 1. Okay, it went into spam, but that could be because it's coming from GitHub. But you can see here, look how incredibly helpful this would be if you were testing forms and you had submissions not going through, and suddenly one goes through and you're like, wait, which one was that? You can put a message in here to yourself so you know which one goes through and which one doesn't, and that can really help with your debugging. It's incredibly important. So let's make sure now that we're capturing the page path. Let's do a little bit of JavaScript. And my JavaScript for this is very simple. I'm going to show you here. I have it already. Let's do right here. We'll just say function form validation. Okay, so what is this actually doing here? Well, first, obviously, we're just checking to make sure that there's a form on the page. And then we're looking for the hidden field, our inputs for the page URL. So we're grabbing that window location href and the window location path name for those two hidden fields. This is just a tiny bit of form validation, which is maybe technically a little bit redundant because HTML does have built-in validation, but as somebody in the chat pointed out, it's really easy to bypass that. So this is just checking for some form validation, and really it's just returning back it's either a true or a false value that yes, the form is valid or it isn't. So that helps with form validation. And then we're disabling the submit button. And the reason that that is so important is because I'm not paying for the paid version. I don't have a custom redirect for the form. It opens a new tab to say that the form has been submitted, but when they go back to the old page right here, it's still filled in. Disabling the submit button prevents the form from being resubmitted, and then all the user has to do is refresh the page. I suppose we could do like a reload of the page, right? I guess we could. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. So let's test this now. We'll go ahead and push this. Let's see how this looks. We can't really test it locally. It just doesn't work locally. We'll go ahead and push this and test it again. And then we'll take a look on mobile and see how things look. JS for forms. Git push, origin main. Okay. And we'll give this a second. Okay, and that deployed. So let's go ahead and test again. We'll go to our contact form. Let's open up the dev tools and make sure that nothing is happening here. So I'm going to do a new, we'll say Heidi test, Holden test. And then we'll say info. And then I'll say form submission, form submission on 1/15/2026 at 12:35. Please click reply and confirm you received this message. Okay, so when I click submit, that should disable the button and change the text to sending, and then it's going to open a new page and confirm via Formspree that the form was submitted. Okay, perfect. And technically you can go back, but it's not going to be able to go back because this is a new tab. Oh, it didn't change. Why? Why didn't it change? Maybe. Oh, did it just not update? Let's see here. Let's make sure that our script is updated. Yep. Button type submit, if button, button disabled. Button disabled true, button, why didn't it change? Well, let's see if any of our other data got captured. Okay, so we have 2 submissions. Okay, this one went into the inbox. It did not capture any of our stuff. Why? Okay, let's test it one more time. It's possible this hadn't updated. That's what I'm thinking. So does Formspree already check for a valid email address, or can you enter a fake email? I'm sure you can. Well, it's not really checking to see if the email address is fake or not. It's checking to see if it's formatted. So that's what you would be doing. You would be your validation is to make sure that an email address is correctly formatted. And here's one of the reasons that can be so complex. It's because not everything is .com. Some things are like, let's take the UK for example. It could be .co.uk. I mean, top level domains or domain names come in many different flavors and varieties, right? So you're just checking for formatting, not for validity of the email itself, if that makes sense. That's why I don't like doing a lot of form validation or regex. Now, it's different if the people managing the data, so say your CRM team comes to you and they're like, yeah, actually, a lot of the email addresses that are coming into our CRM they're incomplete, or we're seeing this, or we're seeing this pattern. Can you write a regex that helps fix this pattern of mistakes that we're seeing? That type of thing. So I don't know. It's just, yeah. Oh, I meant the way of typos that could happen when entering an email, but I get what you mean. So honestly, I don't know if Formspree is really checking that. I don't think that they are. They use AI to check and see if something if something looks like spam. And I don't know what their algorithm is for determining if something is spam. I know though that validation can account for mistakes that are being made. If it was me, I would wait until my CRM told me what kind of mistakes they're seeing before I tried to do some sort of regex to fix that or to do form validation. So, okay, let's try this again. And I'm hoping that the last test that we did, the JavaScript, like there just was page caching. So we'll see what happens, because our submit button should be disabled and should change to sending, and we should be able to capture those 2 hidden fields. So we'll say form submission on 1/15/2026 at 12:40. Please click reply and confirm you received this message. Okay, here goes nothing. All right, so we got our thank you page. Boom. Now this button is disabled, so we can't click to resend this. I mean, we could write JavaScript to somehow refresh this page and clear the form. In my opinion, this is still an acceptable user experience for a free form service. Like, let me just emphasize the fact that we are using a free form service. This is still an acceptable user experience. We are getting a confirmation page that the form was submitted successfully. And then when we come back to the site, we can't resubmit the form. And it just takes a page refresh and we reload, or you can just navigate to another page. Oh, and look at that. Well, these are the inner pages. We don't have to worry about this. As long as our home page and our contact page is okay. So this to me is success. Again, I want to emphasize free, people. This is a free form service. It works beautifully. Okay, let's go to Formspree now and make sure that our everything was captured. All of our data was captured. And this one went to spam again. I don't know why, but we are getting everything. We're getting the page path and we're getting the full page URL. So if you have multiple forms on your site, I think it's a good idea to capture the page path and the page URL. So we have some inconsistency here for what is going to spam and what is going to the inbox. Let's check email and see. We had one go through that wasn't spam, so let's check email and make sure that it actually went through. One moment here. And it did. So let me show you here. So yes, this went through. And then ideally you would want to hit reply. So I'll go ahead and reply. This is my reply. Yay. And I'll send. And let's see here. We want to make sure that that went through. And it did. It did go through. So I basically sent an email to myself. I was replying to myself, but that is the whole point of this. So if you're doing this for your clients, just make sure when you're doing this for your clients that you ask them to click reply and send you an email confirming that they got the message. And then that email should go back to you or the email that you used to fill out the form. So you're closing the loop on form submissions. You're capturing form submissions in a database, right, over at the third-party service who's doing the heavy lifting for you. But you're also making sure that form submissions are getting to the intended recipient and that you have the ability to click reply and reply to that person who sent the email. So there's that. Okay. It's a lot. I know. It's a lot. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing we're going to do. We are going to deploy this project to a subdomain. So I have this domain called Practice Layouts, and we've been deploying sites. So we've got Italia. I think we have Ocean is also. So we're going to deploy Coffee to coffee.practicelayouts.com. And after we deploy to production, we will go through and test the forms again. So make sure you're testing your forms on the staging site and on the production site. I cannot stress this enough. So once we get to the deployment part of this project, we will go ahead and test forms again. That should always be part of your production QA process to test all of the forms. So let's go ahead and test this on mobile now. We need to do this again. So one moment while I get this pulled up. But this is all working. This is all working beautifully. I'm very happy with this. Ooh, this looks good. This looks so good. You're going to love it. What do we think? It fits really well in this page. Really well. So let's go ahead and fill it out. So it wants to autocomplete because we put those fields in. So we'll just do at. say form submission on 1/15/26 at, what time is it? 12:47. Please click reply and confirm you received this message. Submit. Opens a new tab, but we can go back, and now this button is disabled, so I can click this, but nothing happens. And of course, I can refresh the page and it clears the form. You might not think that that's ideal. I think for a free, I know I'm repeating myself, I think for a free service, it's great. I have no complaints. Okay, good. And it finally treated this one like not spam. And look at that. And we're capturing the path and the URL. We know what time this one went through. We got the message. Yeah. So, and I think if anything came through in the honeypot hidden field, that's how that Formspree would recognize any API name or input name honeypot as something being filled out by a bot. That's why we want to include that. So I think I think that that's a trigger for Formspree to know that that would be a bot. That's why we include that. So what do we think? What do we think, everyone? I love it. I love it. I like it when forms work. Because, yeah, well, I feel like I am repeating myself. It's been a huge part of my career dealing with forms, both in my freelancing life, my consulting life, but just I think of some of the agencies that I worked for, getting forms to work. Oh, it's really stressful. It's really stressful. Oh, and Malik says he sent a test. Let's see here. There we go. There's Malik. Form submission from Android. Nice. 1:48 Eastern. Hello, I am testing with you. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's a good idea to develop a really strong QA process for how you want to deal with your forms. Like I said, just keep in mind that it isn't just about getting things from point A to point B. It's closing the loop. And what does that actually look like? So at St. Thomas, where we were using Salesforce, it was about a drip campaign, right? So something went from the form to the CRM, and then the Salesforce people, they did all the things to build out that drip campaign on the back. So that's not my responsibility. But for freelancing and consulting and small businesses, it is absolutely my responsibility to have a conversation with the client and make sure that we are closing the loop on what is supposed to happen with that form submission. It's almost never a CRM. It's almost always that somebody submits a form on the website, it gets saved to a database or a third-party app like this, and then it gets emailed to the client. The client is almost never going to take the time multiple times a day to go check the database to see if anybody sent an email. They just need to get the email, and they need to be able to reply to the email and send a reply directly back to the email address that was entered on the form. So just think about that loop and make sure that when you're doing freelancing and consulting, that when you're talking through this process with your clients, you're outlining what that loop is and that you have a testing, a way to test closing the loop and making sure all those steps happen. There is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than finding out you weren't getting leads, good leads, really good leads. It's happened to me on my website. it's happened with my clients and I've had to explain why that process failed. It's an awful feeling. So yeah, it's an awful feeling. So Malik, thank you so much for helping with testing. Caffeine Cowboy, I hope I answered your question regarding clamp or my lack thereof using clamp. So there we go. What do we think, people? We're right at about time here. We're right at about time. This was a fun day, right? This was a fun day. I think it was. Look at our cute little form. Okay, good. Good. I also left you a message on your pull request for responsive video gallery. I think you said something in the pull request about not wanting to put something in the comments. You can put anything you want in the comments. Please just don't be mean to me. I'm not saying that you would be mean to me. This is a blanket message for anybody. You can put anything you want in the comments. You can challenge me. You can ask me why I do or don't do something. I will do my best to answer the question. You may not agree with me. It's totally fine. Just don't be mean to me. That's all I ask. Thank you, Malik. I appreciate it. Good work as usual. I appreciate it. So, okay, so this is great. So, you know what else we should do? Let's on Tuesday when we come back, let's make a little QA list of things that we want to work on, little improvements that we want to make. We basically have 2 pages left. Our about page and our menu page. Let's look really quick at Pinterest, because I was looking for ideas for how to structure a menu page. And I'll be honest, I was thinking like let's just build a nice table. That's really what I was thinking. Pinterest had other ideas. So let's do this. Restaurant menu web UI. Every example of a menu UI was like, to me, it just looked like an e-commerce product list, which kind of makes sense because probably most menu UIs are for e-commerce, like they actually want you to place orders. I just want to list out what the menu items are. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, okay, so here's a good example where this is clearly not e-commerce, but they're still showing pictures and a description and calories and all of that. Here's another one. It might have been a little more than I bargained for. I was thinking I was just going to make a nice little table. What do you guys think? If you went to a bakery and you wanted to look at the menu on the bakery, would you expect to see pictures? I can't even believe I'm asking that question because it just makes me feel lazy. That's how I feel right now. I just feel lazy. I'm like, I don't want to put a bunch of pictures in. I just want to build a table. Yeah. So here's another menu. This is pretty complex. I don't know if I really want to build this. This is what I was thinking. This is what I was thinking right here, that we would just build a nice little table. Let's see here. Yeah, something like this. Something like this. Of course you would, Malik. I'd expect a picture and a name. It's just so much work. Yeah, I was thinking, can I put in some pictures? Do I have to put in all the pictures? See, I was thinking something like this. Or, yeah, let's save some of these. that save? Oh, create board menu. Okay. See, I want to do something like this. Or maybe these are more examples of like just a menu UI. Well, that's not what I wanted. You could just have the category picture, then just the names under that category. Yeah. Maybe a simple table menu, but the drink item has a link to a details page with the picture, description, options, etc. Yeah, I have to think about this. Well, I have a day or two to think about it. So when we come back this weekend, we are going to work on, we'll work on the menu page. What happened here? Oh, I have to fix the links for, did I do that on, yeah, I do. I have to fix the links on some of these. Okay. All right, I'll fix those links. Okay. And we'll make a QA list also. We're going to make a QA list on Saturday. We'll start working on the menu and we'll go from there. All right. We had a great day, everybody. Thank you for coming to hang out. I appreciate it. Do me a favor. If you haven't liked the video yet, hit the thumbs up button. Helps the algorithm. We can push this out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would appreciate it so much. And Targio says, what is about the menu with a pop-up section? Is that a question, or are you suggesting a pop-up section for the menu? I'm open, but I also want to keep it simple. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I will see you this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you all so much. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.